Hello and welcome to Across Louisiana. My name is Steve Sawyer, the host of the show, and we greatly appreciate you taking time from your schedule to be a part of the show today. We've got a great show lined up for you. JoAnn Burke. JoAnn is the education coordinator for the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation, and she's going to be talking about two events that they've got coming up, the Basin Bop and the Save Our Lake Rodeo, which has been around for, gosh, well over 15 years, and everybody knows about that. Our second guest is Mr. Belin. Eric is the president of the French-American Chamber Gulf Coast, and they've got a summer wine festival that's going to be held here in New Orleans. Over 30 wines that will be tested, and a lot of food and drink and a lot of activity that goes along with that, and we're going to give you all the information on how you can be a part of that. And Jean-Claude Brunet is our final guest, and what a fascinating gentleman. Jean-Claude is the Consul General of France, and he's located here in New Orleans. He's been here for about 3 years, and he is from France. Just a fascinating gentleman, and you'll enjoy our conversation. And then he's going to be talking about the Bastille Day festivities, which will be taking place around July the 12th, and they are free and open to the public. A wonderful show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Across Louisiana. Thank you again for being a part of the show today. Our first guest is JoAnn Burke. JoAnn is the education coordinator for the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation. JoAnn, thank you so much for being on the show today. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, we haven't had anybody on the show from the foundation in quite some time, so let me begin by just, if you can, talk a little bit about the foundation, the mission of your organization, some of the programs you're involved in and things like that, and then we'll get into some specific events that you're having coming up.
Surely. Well, I have to say, Steve, we've been around now for 25 years. It's amazing to realize how much has been accomplished in that amount of time. Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation was put into place by the Louisiana State Legislature in 1989.
Wow.
And the purpose was to not only just restore the lake, but to care for the whole watershed. So initially, it was Save Our Lake. That was our first campaign, and highly successful too. So we ultimately were able to get Lake Pontchartrain removed from the impaired water bodies list by 2006. And at that point, if you can remember 2006, we were just post-Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
And our focus was able to shift. Our mission is to restore and preserve the basin, the entire watershed, for this and future generations. And that includes talking about water quality, coastal issues, and habitat. So by 2006, we were, knowing our lake was in better shape, we were able to adopt and go forward full steam on Save Our Coast. And that's where we've kind of been pushing the last practically 9 years now. So those are the two big areas that we concentrate the lake and the coast.
I remember when I moved here. I moved here in 1990, and I remember the big thing was the Save Our Lake that was going on. You still see bumper stickers with cars that still have Save Our Lake on the bumper stickers. JoAnn, does the foundation, do you cover the entire lake on North Shore, South Shore? I mean, you have no parameters that really set you all apart, is there?
Well, honestly, we are over the entire watershed, and it's 16 Louisiana parishes.
Oh, wow, okay.
So our stretch is pretty broad, and that comes into play when we do our water quality work. All the tributaries that lead down into Lake Pontchartrain all are involved with keeping the water quality good for the lake. So it's a big area, 10,000 square mile watershed.
Yeah, and I bet you a lot of people didn't realize that. You've got a couple of events coming up that we want to talk about real quick. One of them, I believe, is a fairly new event, your Basin Bop, and the one everybody knows is the Save Our Lake Coast Fishing Rodeo. So let's talk about the Basin Bop real quick.
Well, the Basin Bop is coming up soon. It's on June 21st, and we're doing it for the second year at Jefferson Playgrounds Gymnasium. It's going to be a real sock hop. And we did it last year. It was well enjoyed, so we felt like a repeat performance was definitely in order. We'll have a band, a small two-man band called Overboard, bringing the music. We actually have Bucktown Burger coming out and providing the food. We have a silent auction with lots of wonderful gifts. Tickets are $30. And
fundraiser.
Fundraiser indeed. And you can get tickets on our websites, www.saveourlake.org.
Okay, we'll put that on the screen. And real quick, let's talk about the Save Our Lake Coast Fishing Rodeo, which is June 27th and June 28th.
Yes, the Save Our Lake and Coast Fishing Rodeo is now in its 17th year. And for the first time, we're putting it at our New Canal Lighthouse. You know, we have the lighthouse rebuilt at this point. We invite people to come. We have a museum and ed center. So what better place to entertain the fishermen at the end of the rodeo? So Friday, we'll have the fishing going on, and Saturday.
Okay.
Registration's $40. You get a t-shirt, you get food, you get the ability to be able to come party with us with music and food afterwards. Lots of different things. Kids are only $15, under 16 years old.
And it all goes to wonderful cause. And again, that website is www.saveourlake.org. All the information can be found about the events on that, along with the Basin Foundation itself. JoAnn, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Across Louisiana. Thank you again so much for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Our guest is Eric Belin. Eric is the president of the French-American Chamber of Commerce, Gulf Coast. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Now, we were talking before you came on. You first visited New Orleans, you said, in 1991 and traveled around and came back, and you've been a New Orleanian since 2006, something
2003,
like that? 2003?
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the French-American Chamber, kind of the mission of your organization. You are a chamber, so what differentiates you from the other chambers, per se?
Well, one is our territory. We actually cover the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, and the coast of Alabama. So that's a pretty wide territory, but that's a very economically dynamic territory. So it's very exciting to be a part of that right now.
Yeah.
Our mission is different because we essentially try to cover and facilitate trades between France and our territory. There are several, quite a few actually, French-American chambers of commerce in the U.S. And actually, for the first year this year in New Orleans, we just hosted the national convention of all the French-American chamber or French chambers that were in Canada, Mexico, and the U.S.
And that was here in New Orleans you held that?
Here in New Orleans at the Monteleone, yes.
Wonderful.
It was a wonderful event.
Yeah. So, how many members do you guys have?
We have about, it depends, but I would say 100 to 150 strong members.
Now, I know your website is www.facc-gc.com. We'll put that on the screen. All information about the chamber, membership, joining, how you can join, all that's on the website?
It is.
Okay. All right. Let's talk real quick about the Summer Wine Festival that you've got coming up. That's a big event for you guys.
It is a big event. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. And thank you, Cox, for being a partner.
Wine, we have no problem.
But last year, it's grown a lot, and it's at the shops at Canal Place, June 28, about 7 to 10-ish. It kind of has a tendency to grow into the night. But last year, we had over 650 people, and
wow,
the shops were like, okay, now where are we going to grow? Can we use more floors? So it's a growing event, and it's always been a lot of fun. And the basis for that is, of course, some wonderful partnerships that we have with our, Air Liquide and Sodexo, but also to Dornex, who provides a lot of wine, and all of the restaurants, some French restaurants like Café des Gages, Chateau du Lac, but also some traditional New Orleans restaurants like Pascal Monally's, for example, or Renaissance, and many others. But the food is fantastic. The wines are great. So it all makes for a wonderful event. And we also have some great music with, I think this year we have the Norbert Slama Trio and others. So again, it's going to be a
great event. And you throw in a little wine, that's a lot of fun. So,
correct.
Eric, is there an admission charge for the event? I mean, it's a fundraiser, right, for the organization?
It is a fundraiser. So yeah, there is an admission charge, but it's fairly nominal for an event.
And all
like
the money goes toward the French Chamber and the work you guys are doing in the community. And
correct,
like
because we do have one employee and a couple, part-time employees that help us with our events. We do a lot of networking events and of course the trade aspect, which needs to be financed too.
How much wine do you think will be, how many different kinds of wine will be sampled, do you think? Any idea?
I would say anywhere between, like, it's a surprise this year, the wines that we're going to have, but usually it's summer wine.
Yeah.
And like rosés, a little more on the white or light red kind of side, but I would say somewhere between 15 to 20
Wow.
wines.
So you'll get your share of wine.
Absolutely.
Eric, thank you so much for being on the show. Again, the website is www.facc-gc.com. All the information on the French American Chamber of Commerce can be found on the website, as long as information as for the wine tasting. And best of success for you guys for that upcoming event. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Across Louisiana. You know, we've never had an international guest on the show before, and I am very happy to welcome Jean-Claude Brunet. Jean-Claude is the Consul General of France, and he's stationed here in New Orleans, not a resident of New Orleans, but a resident of France. And we were talking before the segment started, an interesting story, because I really don't think a lot of people would know what a consul general would do in New Orleans. So if you could, Jean-Claude, just tell us a little bit about what your role is here, and again, welcome. We're happy to have you here. I believe you said you've been here like 3 years now.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a great pleasure to be in your show, and to, of course, and indeed, my role is maybe not so less known, and actually, it's quite important. For especially the first function of a consul is to take care of the French nationals abroad when they lose their papers, their passports, for any kind of question or problem related to documents, personal documents. And so we are, that's the core of our role is really to take care of our French community, and that means the French community, the French nationals living in Louisiana and in New Orleans, but also those who come as tourists.
And you know, if let's say that if we had an event happening in New Orleans where there were French dignitaries and things like that, I'm sure you would be very much involved in handling all that.
And that's the second big, I would say, function, of course, is to represent my country in the state of Louisiana. And there is actually, what is exciting about it is there is a big history about it, of course.
Absolutely, especially
since we are the French consulate in Louisiana is the oldest French consulate in the United States.
I was going to ask that.
Because the day in 1803 where Louisiana was bought to Napoleon Bonaparte, who so with the Louisiana Purchase, the day after there was, or a few days after, a designation of a French consul in Louisiana, since the strong connection, of course, with the people from in Louisiana with France were kept and were over these centuries strengthened and diversified and reinforced. And so that's in the United States, this consulate has a really special role and special history. And so that's it's really a great honor to be posted in New Orleans. And also because you have specific functions. So in addition to the ones we mentioned, there is the cultural and the education part, which is very important because, for example, in the education for the French language, you may remember in 1968 there was the creation of the CODOFIL, so the Council for the Development of the French Language in Louisiana. And so with the will of the legislature in the Baton Rouge to support the French language to be taught in schools in Louisiana. And that in 68, a few years later, the French President Georges Pompidou decided to partner with Louisiana and to send to ensure that the French Ministry of Education would send every year
That's great.
teachers,
Yeah.
and it lasted all these years, and it continues. And I have also another hat, which is representing the Ministry of the National Education, to be actually managing the 90 French teachers who are, not managing for what relates to their ministry, but also paperwork and social security.
And let's do this. Let's do this real quick, because we're going to listen to you, and we're going to not talk about the Bastille Day festivities you've got coming up, and I believe that's on July the 12th. So talk about that real quick.
Yeah, that's it's a great opportunity to highlight these special relations, cultural relations between New Orleans and France, and it's the third edition. We start, and there will be really a party, many events. And a big party during the weekend before July 14. And the big party will be with lots of music, French music from Louisiana, from different parts, and from the French artists also in the city in New Orleans, and it will be near the Riverwalk on Spanish Plaza.
Okay.
It's also funny to see the connection, French connection and the Spanish connection, which are quite intertwined in the history of New Orleans. And but many other events throughout the weekend. It will be presented on the website of.
And we'll put that on the screen.
And so the big party I mentioned, with Alliance Française, with the Chamber of Franco-American Chamber of Commerce, who are partnering, and many organizations and associations also that, and the French community, the French citizens in New Orleans, who will party together with everyone who wants to come.
That's great. Food,
music. So I mentioned music, food, cooking demonstrations at the French market.
Now, is it open to the public, or is there
open to the public?
All right, great.
And come with your friends, and it's not necessary to speak French. you may learn a few words, but there will be a vintage car show.
That's great.
The waiters race is also a long tradition.
I've heard that.
And in New Orleans for Bastille Day. That French dog contests, so it's very funny also to see
And it's all free and open to the public. That's great.
All free and open to the public.
Well, Jean-Claude, we're going to run out of time here. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. You've been here 3 years. I'm glad you enjoy New Orleans. I know I've been here 24, and I love it. Maybe one day I can come to France, and you can invite me to something over there. So again, thank you. Please feel free to come back. I'd love to sit down and chat on a future show and talk about some of the history and Bastille Day and what all that is, and we'd love to have you come back. Jean-Claude, thank you so much for being on the show. We greatly appreciate having you here today, and welcome to New Orleans. We enjoy having you here. That's a wrap for us today, and again, thank you as always for being a part of Across Louisiana, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.